Welcome back to another video with Max Sports Management International. Today we thought we would do a video about a guide to do you need an agent. Obviously that puts me under a bit of pressure because that's my job, but we're going to kick it off together, aren't we, mate?
We are. Firstly, how have you been, Jace?
Busy. Seems to be ramping up. We're sitting here obviously end of January and yeah, so we better get cracking, mate, so I might have to go in a minute.
Yeah, you might get a call in a minute. Right, okay, so again, as always, I've noted down some questions.
Okay, cool.
So, do you need an agent? First question I've got on here was, what should parents expect when looking for an agent?
Okay, so obviously being the time of year that it is, January is actually when you're able to start looking for representation each year. So obviously prior to that, parents start getting an understanding of maybe do they need an agent, do they want an agent, what's the expectations of an agent. But when it comes down to actually an agent looking after you, I just think that there's lots of things that parents maybe wouldn't have a clue about. So when it comes down to being the start of the month, they shouldn't be pressured into making that decision quickly, in my opinion. I think it's really important to kind of understand how agents work, because agents work in many different ways, mate. So I know that's a little bit rounded, but yeah, I think it's a really important time to start thinking about having representation this time of year.
Okay, perfect. And then how does an agent help the family away from the player?
Okay.
So do you help the family away from the player?
Yeah, massively. I think that obviously the first and foremost you want to have a relationship which is built over time, and I think one of the most important things is trust and transparency when it comes to having an agent. But obviously that's once you build a relationship, and you can only do that over time, and obviously when it comes down to representation you can actually only have a contract in place for 2 years. So agents are always under pressure each and every 18 months to be sort of...
You can only have a contract for 2 years?
Yeah, so I'm really open about it. So we're always under pressure to be doing a good job, because you know, obviously with 3 months left you're able to go and speak to someone else. But then obviously prior to that, agents are approaching players all of the time. So it's about trying to build that relationship to make sure you're bulletproof. I would say that there's players that if I offered a 10-year contract, they'd sign it tomorrow, but that isn't the rules and regs. So, you know, you shouldn't make it about the contract. You should make it about building the relationship. But when it comes down to helping the families, we do loads. I think it's really important. So depending on the age of a player, when a player's young, the families maybe don't know about what's going on. So you're kind of guiding them through a process of signing professional contracts, scholarships, etc., and then guiding them through a process of what's going to happen. And only agents that are experienced are able to actually guide them through that process, whether that could be moving football clubs, signing the contract to where you are, and going through all those sort of difficult processes that families actually really don't maybe know, or they think they might know, because they get a good understanding. And when you're sitting with an agent, it's important to actually understand what they do first before making a commitment.
Yeah, definitely.
And obviously there's lots of different sizes of agencies. You've got big agents, medium-sized agents, small agents, and we'd put ourselves somewhere in the middle. And obviously, I'm honest, we're up against some really good people that are really good at what they do. But again, where I think it sets us apart a little bit is you get me, and obviously you get the team behind me, and then there's lots of arms to the agency. Right. So over time, you're obviously, once you, let's say you've signed a contract, it doesn't stop there. It actually just starts the relationship. So let's say you move a player from A to B, or you help them negotiate a contract. After that, there should be a lot more that happens. So really what we try and focus on is not having too much going on, so we can actually give that focused attention.
Wow. Blow me away there, mate. Jesus. Brilliant answer. So that leads me on to my next question. What should a family be looking for when meeting an agent? Should they look for specific things?
Okay, so whether it's meeting an agent or being looked after by an agent, what should they be looking for? First of all, we always try and ask them the question is, what do you want? So let's say...
Because, I mean, ultimately, the whole point of an agent is for the player, right?
That's what I mean. So, but between 16 and 18, you need guardian's consent. So if we're talking about that, it's one conversation. Okay. And then once they turn 18, you know, I have players that are 25. I have players that are 35, even still now, that are looking for jobs and going into punditry, managers, etc., etc. So they look for something completely different, because maybe at that age you're going to work more on commercial stuff, and there's agencies that are very good commercially, and then obviously it's about your contacts. So I pride myself on being able to pick up the phone to any director of football, any chief scout, and be able to open the door. So is that useful to a family? Yes. But right at the start of the relationship, that isn't going to be why you sign with an agent.
No.
They want the sweets, you know, they want the boot contracts, they want to be able to talk about how much you're going to go and make them, they want to be able to talk about what you're going to do for their son. And then obviously we have great relationships where the families, you know, are really focused on what are you going to do for the individual. So whether that's goal setting, whether that's helping them go and gain a boot contract, whether that's, you know, going into really real detail about analysis one-to-one, and obviously you either work with the football club, or more often than not now we are helping them with their strength and conditioning, with some work away from the football club, and you need to offer that. It can mean loads of different things, but what you need to actually ask is, what do you want from your agent? Yeah. So I try and ask that and let them think about it, rather than say this is what we think that you want. Let's actually try and see if we can dictate the relationship based on growing together of each individual situation. So I'm meeting a player's family tomorrow, and I'm going through a situation where that player's going to move football club. Right now they're really focused on what can I bring to the table, and I totally understand that, and I put myself under pressure to be able to go and deliver. I have another situation where I'm negotiating a professional contract for a player, and they're leaning on, do I know the levels of the market? Can I go and make that contract good for the levels? Because once they sign it, they're not going anywhere. So that's really important. And in 6 months, and if I haven't done my job properly and I've benefited the club rather than the player, I'm out of a job. So there's actually so much that goes on. And then the other side of it is, often you maybe, let's say, sign a contract, and then the player flies. Have you protected them within that contract, and are you good at your job to be able to protect them? If they're successful, then it goes up the levels. Or if he plays X amount of games, you're straight back into the football club to renegotiate, for example.
There's so much to think about.
So yeah, of course. And that's hard for the families, isn't it?
Yeah.
For them to think about, because how would they know?
Exactly. But as well, how do you convince a family to trust you when everyone's kind of saying the same thing?
Timing and feel. I think that sometimes we lose this way, but I'm not the yes man.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. And sometimes we win that way, sometimes we lose that way. And sometimes it comes back round in a full circle that a player then understands over time. But I'm really pushy in my head on the fact that don't make a mistake off the basis of that you're just listening to the noise. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, you're kind of just being told what you want to hear, right?
Yeah, rather than actually going with someone that can actually show you that they've done the job well. I would honestly say that if you wanted to pick up the phone to a family member of a player that I represent, I'd feel very comfortable with that.
Really,
yeah.
It's brilliant. Good position to be in. How can an agent protect and take care of a player?
So protection, again, this can mean lots of different things, can't it? It's protect them financially, protect them in terms of the noise, protect them from what's coming in the media, protect them from lots of different things.
How can you protect them from that?
So there's only certain amount of things you can do. Like I like to think that you also protect them from all of the difficult things that are going to come, and how you do that is via experience, in my opinion. So I try to put people at ease, my players at ease, by saying that anything that you're going to go through, I've been through. So hopefully that would make them feel protected. Also, you protect them from the clubs. So sometimes they want you, sometimes they don't. They're the quickest to push you out, but they're also the quickest to want to come and bring you in if that suits their narrative, right? So I'm very much on a focus of, I will protect my players 100% because I don't work for the football clubs. So when it comes down to protection, I'll treat the players like my own. Right, I don't think that you can give more than that. And then once you're with us, it's about protecting them from the media, from the journalists, from lots of other people in their rear promising the world, for example. And that's a really tough thing, because if I turn around to you and said, I can promise you to deliver on this tomorrow, you're going to listen. Yeah. It's really hard for then the families or the players to think, oh, you know, that's a really nice thing to hear. But then if they really trust you and you've built that relationship, I'd like to think that they'd understand that the noise isn't always the right thing to listen to.
You can ultimately only protect them to a certain extent, right?
Yeah.
Things like media and stuff.
Yeah,
There's nothing you can really do about.
No, I mean you can't lock them in a room and not let them go anywhere.
Exactly.
But at the same time, that's also the clubs that should get involved in that. So whether that's protecting them to, if you want to build their mind, let's say, one of the things that we would always say is go and speak to a psychologist. You don't trust anyone, then go and speak to someone that is an expert in that field.
Right, okay.
If you don't trust a football club at that particular time because you think that they aren't doing right by you, you should listen to your agent. Do you trust your agent? Or let's say there's a really private scenario going on and there's stuff that's happening in the family. Who do you talk to? And I also work really closely with the families to try and build that scenario, because you never know who you're working with. Sometimes you're working with the football clubs, sometimes you're not, and there's always an ulterior motive going on somewhere along the line, normally.
Busy world. Brilliant. Next question is, how can parents better understand the agency world?
Watch my YouTube.
That is true. Subscribe.
No, it's really difficult, isn't it? Because I think that the one thing that they're thrown into a world that's really difficult.
Have agents kind of just got? I don't know how to say it. Like, you just think of an agent as
I think
someone just living the life off.
Yeah, you do.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So we often now will stand on the sideline and there's 30 different people going to say hello to the same parent, for example. It's impossible for them. So one of the bits of advice that we would always say is narrow it down.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to that, it's like, how can you answer those questions? I've had loads of different situations where there's been so much, I've just re-signed a player, for example, that was really difficult. Lots of scenarios going on in the background, lots of noise, really difficult for the player, and I'm so thankful for the players kind of trusting to me, because I wasn't giving him the noise. I was giving him the kind of real truth, and really we want to work with players like that, and that's really hard for the parents to navigate themselves. So one of the things I'd always suggest is, when you're thinking about, do you need an agent? Yes, 100% you do, but the right one. And how you do that is kind of get an understanding. Yes, you should kind of get the feel, and then narrow it down to what you think is right for you. Do you think that you want to go to one of the big agents that are going to provide you with X? Okay, that might be great for now, and I'd always respect the decision. Do you want to go with a medium-sized agent, a small agent? There's lots of pros and cons. So really, you want to get yourself into a situation where you weigh it up. Obviously, I'm bound to say this, and I'm biased. I think you get best of both worlds with us. But then, at the same time, I'd always respect an opinion of a player, or respect an opinion of an agent, of how they operate, because we all work differently.
What would you say is the pros of going with someone slightly smaller than to a bigger one?
Okay, so when it comes down to focused attention, I think that, it's really difficult to compete with us, where we're able to actually sit down with the family and say, we are the ones negotiating on your son's behalf, let's say. So when it comes down to being able to open up the door to any football club, and I can pick up the phone to the chief scout, to the director of football, the head of recruitment, whatever that may be, I think that goes a long way. So once it then gets to that, in terms of moving the player, because that is definitely our super strength, being able to do that in the market that we live in, because I don't think there's anyone that's doing a better job in the market like that. So if that's something that you want, 100% we compete with everyone on that. And then when it comes down to actually looking after the player, the best way I can say that is we've had 3 situations this year where they've decided to sign with a big agent, and they've picked up the phone because they want to be with us.
Really?
Yeah, because, and that's not...
Do you think that's because it's a bit more of a personal feel with you guys?
I don't know. We should ask them, to be honest. And I think it's one of those where I actually know of a situation where a player signed with an agent and didn't see the agent that they signed with for the 2 years.
Yeah, that's mental, isn't it?
And again, I'm not going to mention the names or whatever, because and by the way, that agent does some really great business.
Yeah.
And but so do we. But then when it comes down to the players getting past the noise, if you want the attention, if you want the focus, if you want also the protection behind it, then of course I'm going to say that we're top of that list.
Yeah, no, that is mental, and I think the way I would see it, if I was a footballer, I would think going with someone slightly, not massive, but decent size.
Yeah,
you got more of a, I could pick the phone up to you at any time you want, and I know you're going to answer the phone.
Yeah, okay, so that's one thing though. But then you're going to, let's say we're having a conversation with them. They're going to say, oh, well, we can do the great commercial stuff. We're going to be able to do X, but there's nothing that we can't do. So when it comes down to us, and I'm the one going in to negotiate on your son's behalf, and where I know the levels and that. So when it comes down to protection in terms of financial stability, you'd want me on your side going into that chairman's office or going into that head of recruitment's office, because I fight to the death for my players. And that's a really big thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Moving on, we got, what pitfalls do you find families fall into when looking for an agent?
Choice is absolutely crazy out there, because whether that's choice of club, whether that's choice of agent, whether that's choice of brands, there's so many pitfalls that comes when it comes to, do you need an agent? And let's say you went and asked a club, they'd probably say no, you don't. The good ones would say you'd want a good one. Because they want to control the scenario. They want to control the scenario to a point where they think, oh, don't worry, you can trust us. But I know so many scenarios where that hasn't worked out. Yeah, so pitfalls is really difficult. So it comes again back to protection. It's really important that you have your protector behind you, who isn't going to take shit and going to be able to move you on into a direction that is, you're acting on their behalf. So when it comes down to the pitfalls that you always go through, but bringing it back to this video in terms of, do you need an agent, and obviously the kind of guide towards it, when it comes down to kind of like the promises that are given out there, I think they're the biggest pitfalls, because you can listen to we can do this for you, we can do that for you, and I say the same thing, but I actually do. And I also get to a point where I don't just be the yes man again, and I've said it before, I say it again, is I don't think it's like, oh, I promise you this and I promise you that. Well, no, actually, because that might not be right. So when it comes down to making the decision, I think you can get rid of those pitfalls based off going with someone that has done the business and is happy to show you how. So when we go and represent a player, we'll show you the dynamics of what happens. Yeah. I don't think there's many people that actually can do that. And I would also be open to anyone that wanted to ask me that question when it comes down to parents, whether they're thinking about signing with an agent or have lots of interest from different football clubs. You can ask the process, because for us it's normal. I do it every day.
Yeah. Brilliant. Last question we've got. So you're a father now. And I've been in this business for a very long time. What would your top tips be when making a decision on an agent?
Okay, so first of all, understand the market of an agent. I would say it's really important for that. Look at what's out there, ask questions, decide what you want. Yeah. And then go into the relationship thinking that you're going to be with that agent throughout your whole career, rather than the short-term fix. Because, you want to get past the initial kind of sexiness of the industry, although you should also want both. Of course, you want to be with someone that's going to be able to provide you with the best of everything and have all of the arms, whether it be commercial, whether it be branding, whether it be able to get you to move, or whether it be able to help you financially in the long term.
But is that realistic? Are you ever going to get someone who can supply all that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
100%. We can provide all of that in a heartbeat. If you ask me to ring, if I could help with a mortgage tomorrow, I can do it. A financial advisor tomorrow, I can do it. Help him move a property, I can do it. Commercial, if you wanted me to speak to Adidas tomorrow, of course I can do
really?
it. Yeah, of course I can.
Oh, that's brilliant.
That's absolutely what's on the top of the tin. It's we can do absolutely everything, and everyone does it in a different way.
Right.
So for me, that's a rough guide to having an agent, I guess.
I'm choosing the right one.
Yeah.
Well, I'd choose you anyway, James.
Top man. So would all of you. And that's another video with Max Sports Management. Today we've been talking about a career guide to Do You Need an Agent? Once again, thank you for listening. Please follow the page, Jason Mack Football Agent, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.